eventually you get absorbed in and you are Sonic.
Sup, dudes? Welcome to another gnarly episode of No Repeat. It's a podcast where we put on a touring music festival to soundtrack your every shred session. I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I'm joined by the other members of my skate team, Tyler Reed.
Hello, I am 45 years old, wearing a black band t-shirt and cut-off jean shorts.
And Sean Evans.
If I could just have some money so I could eat tonight, that would be really cool. Be my favorite fans.
Tyler, what was our challenge this week?
This week we were trying to find the perfect song for the hypothetical Warped Tour 2024. You know, it's your own challenge. We got a Discord. You can check out the link for that in the bio. So you can submit your challenges there. Or you can always send us an email, norepeatpod@gmail.com.
So, big heads up at the top of the episode. The Warped Tour, in its previous form, it's come to light been maybe not so great for a lot of people. You know, there are a lot of instances of grooming and sexual misconduct and things that happened during these events, and I just want to put that out there at the top of the show and say that we're not really going to spend a lot of time on that during this episode, but if just talking about that event, the Warped Tour itself, is triggering for you, maybe skip this one. But that said, for those that don't know or who haven't been to one, Warped Tour was a touring music festival sponsored by the Vans skateboard shoe company that ran from the late 90s into the 2010s. It mostly featured punk bands, but it kind of had a little bit of everything. And it would kind of roll up to your town during the summer, and usually it would be put on in a parking lot, and there would be like 3 or 4 stages, bands all day, and the bands were all kind of just like in tour buses, quote unquote backstage, but really just like fenced off from the audiences. So a lot of times they were out mingling and being a part of it. And I don't know, it was just like before every city in America had its own music festival, the Warped Tour coming to your town was probably the only chance you got to see a lot of these bands. And you would see like a lot of bands. Like some of these sets were only like 15, 30 minutes. But the lineups were always pretty diverse. I feel like everybody I know from high school went to Warped Tour without me. I was never allowed to go. So I'm going to lean on you guys a lot because I know that you both went at least once. I think you guys went multiple times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the most notable things that stick out in my mind about the Warped Tour is that PETA was always there. There was always, for some reason, a strange amount of Judeo-Christian skateboarders and or like preachers in some capacity, and not like the like burn in hell kind, but they're like, yo, dudes, we're like super sick and cool, like, but like, what's up with Jesus? Like, you could come hang with him. And which was also kind of like the era where like screamo bands were also like very Christian coded as well. There's that, and then the eclectic lineup, which, as Taylor kind of was saying, was like it was bands like all day, and so as you can imagine, they were not all bangers all day, and maybe not the bangers you were expecting all day, right? Because like sometimes you would get much to Taylor and Sean's dismay, there was a bit of ska, which was great. There was like and some of it was even more in the like traditional sort of sense, like the much more of like a bandy band kind of thing, a little bit more instrumentation, a little bit more of a chiller vibe, not necessarily the like sort of the pop punk infused things, you know, more like Zoot Suit Riot kind of stuff, you know. Let's see what else. Like there was randomly like Katy Perry was there one year. I feel like there was a decent amount of sort of like old and new. Like I can imagine a lot of the kids that were kind of going to the show back in the day were probably not super excited about Rancid, or Pennywise. I feel like there was like old like skate dudes, and then there sort of was like skinny jeans, swoop hair, like Under Oath type beat, and it kind of became more of that after a while, and then obviously inevitably became 303 and Crunkcore.
Crunkcore.
Yeah, that sure did happen a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at the list of bands that have played Warped Tour the most, I'm just going to read them down here. Less Than Jake, Simple Plan, Anti-Flag, and Real Big Fish have all done more than 10 times. Then
Hell yeah, bro.
all of these bands have performed 10 times. Motion City Soundtrack, Pennywise, Silverstein, and Sum 41.
Yes.
And then you get down into the 9s and 8s, and it's still like names you kind of know, right? Bowling for Soup. Motionless in White is the first one on here that I've never heard of. They're a metalcore band, apparently. The Vandals, the Ataris, Big D and the Kids Table, Bouncing Souls,
Yes.
Every Time I Die, Good Charlotte, NoFX, The Used. Like, it's kind of the greatest hits of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtracks. Sean, what do you remember about Warped Tour? How many times did you end up going?
I went twice. It was fine. I feel like we read the lineup about a week ago in preparation for this show, and I thought, man, there was a lot of bands that I knew. I think the first time I went, I really wanted to see Under Oath, and I did, which was kind of cool. And the second time I went, I wanted to see Middle Class Rut, which was kind of cool. But I remember there was like a huge, the one that Tyler and I went to, there was a big circle pit for this band called Gallows, who was like a English hardcore punk band. That was kind of a crazy show. And it rained on us that year too. And that was, I don't know if that was really dangerous. In hindsight, I think it might have been. But no one really stopped playing for that.
I mean, probably dangerous.
Yeah.
That's
I
not
don't
gonna
know.
stop rock and roll, baby. What?
Yeah.
You gonna?
I mean, it was very fueled by Monster Energy drink, and you were out in the sun a lot looking at a band on a trailer.
And I think we should note, too, that, like, the event was marketed to teenagers in a way that today's music festivals really aren't. Like, did they even sell alcohol at these? I don't think they did.
I don't think so. I was not 21 at the time, so I probably had no idea. But it does sort of feel like it wouldn't. You know what? This is what the old Googler's for. Did Warp Tour sell alcohol? Blame on alcohol, baby.
I do know that for a while they had this thing called reverse daycare, where parents had a waiting area where they could just hang out while they waited for their kids to go to all the shows, which is hilarious.
I just found a JPEG from 2014 that said, "I've always wondered how the musicians at Vans Warped Tour didn't die from drinking so many Monster Energy drinks on stage. This explains everything," and it's literally just a Monster can, but it just says Tour Water on it. Like, that makes a lot of sense.
Good Lord.
Gotta be advertising all the time.
Yeah.
Let people know that you are jazzed as hell on on Monster Energy drink the entire time.
I think the
There
other...
wasn't
Go ahead.
like a lot of food. It was like a lot of stadium food, and it was very limited.
I feel
So
like that's
think
probably
this
more location dependent, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I always loved, though, as somebody who was never able to go, is that every year they put out a compilation CD that had, like, the biggest song or, like, the current single from each band that was playing the Warped Tour. And it was like getting a new Tony Hawk soundtrack every summer. Like, the hit quality on those CDs was really high. The misses were pretty few and far between. And they were usually like 2-disc sets, like 40 tracks. Like, it really kind of was at the peak of like skate culture and like Jackass and the whole like MTV stable of like middle school boy reality shows. Like, that whole culture is like tied up in this as well. Even kind of like pre-emo, like the Fall Out Boy MCR era of emo. This was like before and kind of adjacent to that, but never really, I feel like. It wasn't necessarily the same thing. Like, there were a couple of emo bands on Warped Tour, but I never felt like it was an emo event.
No.
Well, it always felt like, like I kind of was saying, felt like a mixing pot of a lot of sort of like whatever the popular trend was kind of at the time. A little bit of old, a little bit of new, a little bit of like things that go into Z direction. It's like, this is...
I'm going to make an analogy that I hope offends everybody.
Yeah. It's like Dropkick Murphys, but loves Jesus. Like,
right, yeah, exactly. It was like the UN of rock and roll of its time.
Yeah. It's got all the big hits. Irish punk, dance punk,
got some rap thrown in there.
And you know what? I just remembered nerdcore. That was also a part of like nerdcore rappers like MC Chris and all that stuff. Where that was also a big thing. I forgot. Where they just rapped about Nintendo.
Hey, they knew their audience, man.
They knew their audience, and surprisingly was not me.
Shocking.
You know, when we were reading that track list, it made me realize that I thought that I only saw I Wrestled a Bear once one time, but I think there might have been 3 times that I saw I Wrestled a Bear once.
That's so too many times to see a bear wrestling and make it out alive.
I was going to say, so you wrestled with I Wrestled a Bear once thrice.
Yes. I saw what you did there. That was nicely done.
Thank you. So, you know, there's been talk a little bit about some kind of Warped Tour revival of some sort, basically ever since its founder retired in 2019. And, you know, will it come back? Will it not? I don't know. I would kind of argue there's not really a need for it now, that there is like a 3-day music festival in literally every major city in this country. Like, it feels like we're at festival fatigue, personally. But if we were to do one today, what would you want to see in terms of like how it operates, what the lineup looks like, what the audience is for it? Like, are you going to pitch it the same way it was when we were young and make it like all punk bands, kind of geared at that high school demographic, or would you do something different with it?
So there's one mentality that I think you could take it in, where this is not the way that I went, but I think this would be funny, where it would be essentially the equivalent of a Renaissance festival, where it's just you would maybe just have hired actors and certain activities, so like everyone would just sort of like dress the part of that era, and then, you know, I mean, there's bands that are still making that kind of music, and so it would just be really a great opportunity for those bands to come back, for some new bands that are in that style, and then for people to sort of pimp out their Etsy shops that have Rawr Means I Love You and Dinosaur, and yeah.
Tyler's not joking, people. You may be too young to remember this, but that was a very widely selling t-shirt at that time.
Anyway, so I feel like that would be... I feel like you could sort of parade that about, but I feel like that's kind of already happening, though, with like...
That's like When We Were Young Fest.
Yeah, I feel like Vegas. That's probably what literally everyone would do. I feel like I would say just take that back to its roots, you know, and just sort of bring those bands back, or do that sort of aesthetic again. I think that's one way to do it.
What do you think, Sean? What's your approach to Warped Tour 2024?
No. Nope.
He says
Mold now.
it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
He says, I'm too old
It's
for it,
Vince
and therefore it shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of.
To quote Vince Staples, who would also probably not be at a Warped Tour. We old now.
I mean, look, I think it has its place. I don't know that we need it. I'm with Sean. I think we have enough music festivals. The only thing that I really kind of miss about the Warped Tour setup is the amount of up-and-coming bands that would do it. Because you really, like, if you were a moderately successful punk band, it was kind of like having a booking agency book you a nationwide tour for, next to nothing on your end. The catch is, I'm sure you didn't get paid that well. But
Yeah.
if you're...
Well, it was like a cheap way to see a lot of bands too.
Yeah. And they usually would book like 4 or 5 local bands from every city they were in. And I think that was a really cool thing to do that like you don't see as often anymore. Like when you have these big Ticketmaster venues, national touring acts can't just like grab a local band to open for them. That's not the way those venues work. Which is a shame because I do think that could be a fun way to get some exposure for artists that you might not otherwise get to see on that big of a stage. And that's kind of what I was looking for this challenge. I really wanted to pick a song that I was like, this feels like Warped Tour. This feels like something that I would like hear from afar and be like, oh, I'm going to go over and see what that is. Like, I kind of like this. It's that it's that serendipity, the stumbling onto a band where you're like, okay, yeah, I'll look these guys up. This is kind of cool. And so it was really hard to like have a method this week because I was kind of just like putting on random playlists and like finding a song and then like creating a station off of it and just like kind of wandering through the forest of streaming music until I found something that I was like, yeah, this tracks. But what about you guys? Did you have like a method? How'd you end up on your song?
So I think what actually Warped Tour should be, I think if they were just to genuinely like redo it in some kind of way, I think it would be for the Midwest. I think in sort of the towns where people don't go, where they don't have a lot of shows. I think that what it really would address is the need for community in sort of like underserved like areas where it's like, like a lot, I feel like Cincinnati for a long time got skipped over, and there's certainly parts of like sort of like parts of Ohio and parts of, probably lots of just the Midwest in general that I feel like are pretty like underserved. And I feel like I want that, and I want there to be a sort of more of a focus on things that like kind of like the youth of today are sort of like interested in, so I feel like almost more of like a focus on like retail that is also not necessarily like just band stuff. Like I think there should be like thrifting opportunities or like meetups or stuff like that, like sort of like more like sort of like take like a craft market and sort of like combine it like with like with a festival, and also like make something like, and also make it like community focused and focus on activities that would be able to bring people together, and then focus on artists that kind of like would be able to inspire that.
I feel like you just created a Portlandia sketch.
That's okay.
I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just like,
Like you just described like traveling Woodstock 3.
yeah, exactly. You're like listing off all the things to scare a conservative.
Uh-huh.
Just throw in some drag queens and they'll be set.
I think they should have drag queens. They should have them on the roster. An entertainment festival.
We're gonna come to your town with drag queens.
Yeah, why not?
And rock and rolls.
Listen, we're just talking about it. Would it be monetarily viable for in the hell world that we live in? Absolutely not. But if they wanted attention, that'd be the way to do it. Certainly better than having dragging out the dead like punk bands from 50 years ago that the user like these bands suck.
Whoa. Whoa.
You're saying
Yeah,
that Anne Boleyn isn't a draw anymore?
No, I'm not even saying Amberlin. I'm saying they don't even acknowledge that a band even exists. I'm saying like, I don't know, like do you care about the Bouncing Souls? No, absolutely not. I do.
Do the youth care about Bouncing Souls?
They
I
don't.
think
They
so.
don't have a dance. They don't have. You know,
Oh man, can you imagine though if there was
They're not on the
a
top.
they're
TikTok
not on
dance for a
TikTok.
Bouncing Souls song? Maybe that's a challenge.
It would be good. There's
No.
some good tracks that you
No.
could pick from.
No.
Oh man, the way I just scrolled through these lineups and found
No.
Watsky in here.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh.
Throw back. Wow.
Hey, I'm white and I'm a nerd and I love to rap.
I mean, he didn't not have bars, but Sean, what would you do?
No, I wouldn't.
You deny
I
the
wouldn't.
premise
I think
entirely.
this is-
Saying no.
Yeah, no.
He's noped out of this whole challenge. Maybe we need to get a pinch hitter or something.
I wouldn't restart it. I just don't think that it's past its moment now. I love Tyler's Utopian Dream, and for a minute I was on board with it, and then I just said like, no.
I wanna.
I feel like Warped Tour would be even more corporate than it was now.
Oh, absolutely.
It was back then,
Oh yeah.
and I just don't.
And there's
I'm
no
like,
way it would be affordable
about it.
to a teenager the way that it was back then.
Right.
I just think like there. I don't even know if there's like things out there that are targeted towards teenagers anymore.
Nope.
Like I don't even know if like they're interested in that. I don't know. That's why I feel like there's got to be something new. There's some new idea out there that's
I mean, honestly, if we were
safe.
if we
and
were
just
really
as much
gonna
fun.
if we were really gonna do it, it would probably take place within like Fortnite or Roblox or some shit.
Hell yeah, bro.
It'll be Tyler's virtual music festival thing that he went to.
Yeah, the Porter Robinson put on that was genuinely a very fun and cool experience.
Well, Tyler, you seem to be the most excited about this challenge. Why don't you go first?
Unfortunate. Okay. This week I chose "Hot to Go" by Chapel. All right, so I picked her again. Sorry. But I feel like she embodies sort of like the sort of perspective that I feel like if they were to relaunch sort of like a new Warped Tour, like someone that would be like a front runner, someone who has sort of like been grinding on their own, sort of like somewhat independently, right? And has really put in the time to really craft like a strong album, has really done like a lot of their own sort of like personal like marketing, sort of really built like a community, you know, and really crafted like an image that is fun and interesting. It's like it's sexy, it's queer, you know. I feel like, and like, but it's also just it's just fun, exciting, energetic. And so I feel like she sort of like embodies, I feel like, a perspective that I feel like a large part of like this new generation that's kind of coming up, like basically people within her generation, like 25-ish, you know, give or take, I feel like are really identifying sort of like with her mentality, right? And so I think that I don't think you necessarily don't need to be punk. You don't necessarily need to make punk music in order to be part of Warped Tour, but I do feel like she does have a sort of like punk DIY ethos, you know? Like, I feel like it's very grassroots, feels very organic, feels very natural. Whether that's actually true or not, I don't know. But I feel like there's a sort of earnestness to the way she presents herself, especially in this music video for Hot to Go, in which she's like kind of like going around like these different parts of her town in like Wisconsin, right? And she gets like her parents to do like a little, or her grandparents to do like a little dance for the video. And so I feel like it just sort of has a sense of, I don't want to say like innocence, but it's sort of like it feels like it's sort of fun to get like your grandparents to do a dance for your video, right? And then sort of like touring through, it's like there's a sort of, I don't want to say naive or that either, but it just feels like there's something about it just feels nice. But of course, I think the song is sick. I think that it's kind of funny that it's also sort of like almost like a cheerleader-esque kind of like song, and I feel like that kind of pokes at sort of like the preppy sort of like dynamics of like school and stuff like that, and how that kind of like has kind of been switched around a little bit, sort of like in their perspective, right? And so I think it's also would be a great for a performance at Warped Tour because it'd be interactive. People love it interactive. They love a TikTok dance, as we said. But I feel like it's empowering. I feel like it's fun. I don't feel like and it's just cool, fun, sexy, cute, the whole package. I just think what she's doing is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Like when we talk about Katy Perry doing an early tour with the Warped Tour,
yep.
If it was today, it would be Chappell Roan. I mean, she is kind of a drag queen, like in her own way, in her presentation, in her energy, and you're right. It is like, it's punky pop music in the way that like early Gaga felt punky. It's like avant-garde, and like if you just hear the song, you're like, it doesn't feel that weird. Like it feels a little weird, but then you watch the video and you like see her performing and you're like, oh, it's like weird. Like she's like weird. And it's good. Like it's alluring. Like I continually am just impressed by her because every time I think I understand what she's doing, I see like a new performance or a new music video and I'm like, what is this? Like her whole vibe is just so unique and so fun. And yeah, I think the crowd work would be fun. I think it plays with some of those like specific synthesizer sounds that were popular during the Warped Tour era, ironically. Like it makes me think of like Inner Party System or the Limousines or Does It Offend You? Yeah, like that dance punk thing that was going on. And I really like it. It's a great track. It's super catchy.
Yeah, at first when I listened to the song, I didn't like it that much. But upon listening to it a couple more times, I'm like, yeah, it lands. I see where an artist like Chappell has amongst the Warped Tour audience in terms of like bringing in that collective of rock and roll type people. And I think it's fun to have like a party song. It's fun to have a party band at Warped Tour, having gone to a couple. Like, it just breaks up all the
angst.
As somebody who doesn't like humor, somebody who doesn't like humor in their music, you know. I do like a party band every once in a while. I think there was one where Andrew WK was like one of the ones that we went to was one of the headliners, and I think, well, I think it's a good play. So I think this would be a wonderful song, a wonderful artist to have at a Warped Tour.
And Sean's got a soft spot for a redhead anyway. We know this. Well, Sean, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So this week I chose Draw a Line by Dinosaur Pileup. feel like if I haven't picked a dinosaur pile-up song for this show before, I've known about this band for a little bit. I think I have a bunch of their songs on my liked playlist because they do have a very Warped Tour vibe. That fast kind of power punk vibe. This song is a little bit older. I think it came out in like 2013. They have put out more recent stuff since then, but they haven't lost that power pop sensibility that I like about them. My only critique about this song, and I kind of like it but don't like it, is that you basically have like it's a 2-minute and 45-second song, and you have to wait until about a minute in before you actually get the full song. It's not just like lo-fied out. And it feels a little gimmicky, but it was 2013.
Yeah, cut some slack. It's okay.
Yeah. That was 10 years ago. Almost more.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I was dumb as hell 10 years ago.
Me too.
We had barely started making podcasts.
We had barely started making podcasts.
That was a decade before it was cool to have a podcast, and now it's so everybody has one, so it's uncool again.
Yeah, that's right.
We've cycled through the whole thing.
This is one of those bands that I had heard the name of but never listened to, and now I'm kicking myself because I really like this. This is so up my alley. It's, like you said, it's power pop, it's pop punk. It's got some clear, like, Beatles, Weezer, like, that kind of vibe to it. But then it also has a little bit of that, like, Japan Droids-y, Deftones-y, like, wall of feedback thing, which is a nice kind of twist. It reminds me, I think it was last year for Artists to Watch, maybe, I picked Daisy, and I feel like this is in line with that. It's a similar kind of thing. I agree with you. I think that production drop a minute in doesn't work. And I'm not going to cut them too much slack for it, honestly, because, yeah, it was 2013, but I feel like the Hives had already done that, like, years earlier, like, early 2000s, maybe. Like, I feel like that's a very Hivesy gimmick. Which isn't to say anything, because, like, I love that band, too. But yeah, this slaps, and like this would be so fun in a festival setting. It definitely feels like the kind of thing that, like, if you're waiting around for a band that you've heard of to take the stage and these guys come on, you're immediately hooked. And that's what you want out of a good festival band.
Yeah, I mean, this does sort of sound like more of what Warped Tour's kind of like already kind of like has done. You know, it's like, yeah, it's the mentality of like, you know, I want not necessarily more of the same, but, you know, like you're kind of like the remixing, the sort of like taking kind of what's already good and kind of just keep doing it. And I feel like, I mean, it's broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke. If it is, I mean, so I mean, I feel like it plays in that way. But in the same way, I don't necessarily feel like... I feel like for me specifically, I'm kind of like... It doesn't have a weird, dumb gimmick that's like, ooh, it has a little synth on it or whatever that's like, oh, I gotta check them out now. It's like... I feel like I'm very much a person that needs like that little bit extra than just like the four dudes shred their guitars feeling infinite. Which is why I like music, because they love space and they hate the government. So I don't know. I feel like I think the song is solid, and I would sit around for it. I'd be like, sure, let's find out. I feel like
let's sit around for
let's
it.
find out. It's certainly not Under Oath. Certainly not. I gotta say Devil Wears Prada. There you go. That's a band I don't care about. I actually like Under Oath. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's fine.
Just gonna let him take swipes at my life right now.
Well, before Tyler says anything else to offend you, why don't we go to my song?
That's all I know how to do.
This week I chose Bruce Lee by Gang.
You can't move fast enough, and you don't have enough strength.
Hey, are you talking to me? I'm looking too fat like I'm Bruce Lee. Hey, are you talking to me? I'm living my life like a movie. Hey, are you talking to me? I'm looking too fat like I'm Bruce Lee.
You know, this is another one kind of like Sean's where I feel like it's not necessarily going to change the world. I don't think it's even really outside of what the Warped Tour traditionally sounded like. But it's just really fun. It's the kind of like punk rock, hard rock kind of thing that every once in a while I just need. And like when this song comes on, I just want to like floor it and like drive fast and just like scream along. Like it's just got that energy. It's got that momentum. And you know, that Gang vocal, "Hey, are you talking to me?" is like such a good crowd work moment that you could do. I also really like the little bit of Bruce Lee dialogue in the song. I almost wish there was a little bit more. Like, I just think that could be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It's a loud, aggressive rock song about kicking people's asses because you're like Bruce Lee.
This is another really good Warped Tour song. For all of the pop punk reasons that mine was also really good, and the one that made Tyler stand out really well because it was a fun, over-the-top party punk vibe. I love that it brings in Bruce Lee, so there's like some celebrity name recognition. I feel like anything that's has like a little bit of celebrity, I don't know, what's the right word for this? Like name recognition kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like not quite a meme, but it's like a name drop.
Right. Like, I feel like if you were like, I don't know. I watch old movies on a regular basis now, so I just think, like, I was just trying to come up with, like, a really punk rock band name for Cary Grant. I don't know. I'd probably just Cary Grant. I feel like Cary Grant would be, like, sounds like a really good punk rock
It does,
name,
yeah.
Like,
Anything
like,
else?
I think it just plays.
Or they would probably flip it and be Gary Can't.
Yeah. Now that's good.
Gary Camp. Yeah. So yeah, it's got it. It's got the vibe. No sad.
Sean, what does this band sound like?
I was trying to place it too.
About 2,200 other bands.
I was like, is this like a
Donald Trump?
Is this like, what does Royal Blood sound like?
Heavier.
Yeah, Royal Blood's a lot heavier than this.
Yeah.
Deftones?
No.
What am I thinking? Jane's Addiction?
No. It's not. Yeah, no. It's. I don't think. No, it's very power punk.
Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't really call it like anything else than that. And it sounds like a lot of stuff, and that's why I like it.
Oh my gosh!
'Cause it's
I just pulled up their
just like everything
Instagram,
else.
and they always perform in matching neon green balaclavas.
Well, there you go.
This commitment to the
Cool.
bit is impressive.
Well, that's what makes them successful is the bit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes. Oh, there was.
I mean, look at the White Stripes.
That's true. Hey, love.
Look at Devo. I'm trying to think of other bands that look at Guar. They got the bit. Blue Man Group. They're pretty punk rock.
So
They don't even use like real instruments.
Go ahead, Tyler. Talk about
think-
the song.
I think that part I hate most is the because it sounds
agree.
like it's like a millennial woe sound, and I'm like, I want to die. And I'm like, why are we still using anything that sounds like that in any way in the year of our Lord 2024? But
The millennial woe
I just
sound.
can't. But aside from that, I feel like that really takes a lot away from me personally, because like we're kind of saying, it's like it feels like a good remix of kind of what's already been like I've already pretty thoroughly tried ground, right? You know, like it's sort of like 4 Years Strong, A Day to Remember, and sort of like that kind of lineage, right? And I feel like those I really enjoyed sort of like that sort of like sweet and sour sort of taste where it's like it gives you a little bit enough of both, and it kind of blends really well. And so I feel like this kind of comes from that more sort of like more it's not like the metal spectrum of things, but I feel like it comes from more of like a hard rock sort of like place. And I feel like those tastes go well enough together. I feel like I am like I check this one out and I'll be like, yeah, let's stay around for a few more. We'll see. You know, like,
As far as I can tell, they only have 2 songs out, so you wouldn't be sticking around for very long.
well, and as long as they sound different, as long as it's not the same thing twice, I'll stick around.
Well, with that, Warped Tour B-sides. What's going up on your changeable whiteboard, inflatable whiteboard?
I'm nervous to even say some of these out loud because I want to pick up for other challenges, but I will because I'm a good sport. All My Exes Live in Vortexes by Rosie Tucker. Phone Lines Down by Spiritual Cramp. And let's do Song the Bullets Sing by Save Face.
Whoa. What did you just say to me?
I'm telling you, I went to a place this week.
Yeah, you did, buddy. So and like the after show, no, it was the pre-show. Taylor had showed us a TikTok of someone doing like a remix, like a house remix of a Creed song. And I think that would be absolutely the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I feel like an entire part of Warped Tour could just be people doing like weird house sets where they just are like just cranking knobs around and just trying to like make like basically just do girl talk over and over again. I think that would be sick. We could also just go into being like, hey, you know who should also be there? Charlie. Let's just make it a hyper pop festival. We're changing the vibe. We're changing the whole vibe of Warped Tour. She'd be into it. I'd say she would love it. It's going to be extremely sexy. We had talked about Homefront. Also, if we were talking about things from end of the year, I feel like that would be a band that's like...
They'd be a great fit.
Yeah. All sorts of like... Again, I would also say like Ali X would probably be good. All the stuff that I already like, for at least from my vision of it, you know, we could do like just all the stuff that is already dumb that everyone's already tired of hearing me talk about. So we'll just leave it at that.
I don't know. I feel like I picked a Starcrawler song before. Probably I Love LA. This is like a long time ago. They'd be a pretty cool work band. And I think the Viagra Boys
Ooh, yeah.
would be
They'd be a big hit.
absolutely amazing on Warped Tour. I think I might go to it just to see them. I leave shortly after that and come briefly before. But they're just like... Maybe if there was like a cool, weird Warped Tour that had like Idols and Viagra Boys and like some more like
British people
weirdo
that hate the government.
people and...
Well, Tyler and I went to something like that last summer. It was Lorraine, Idols, Jamie XX, and LCD Sound System. which is kind of a weird grouping, but
Oh, and parquet courts, they could also show up too. They're like, we
Ooh.
have strong opinions about the government.
parquet courts would be solid.
Yeah, parquet courts.
Basically, we just want a post-punk revival festival is what it sounds like.
That would also be a direction. I would also love that.
And then, like, thinking about the Viagra Boys, like, I wanted to be in, like, a really weird place. Like, sports music video is basically done on, like, a tennis court. It was like it's filmed during, like, a tennis game. And I think...
Do it in a tennis stadium like that big one outside of Cincinnati.
No, I don't even think I wanted to be in a tennis... I wanted to be in, like, a tennis club. Where the only thing that separated it was, like fences.
Gotta open up the
different
pickleball
stuff, like-
courts. We gotta
Yeah,
open
like that
up
kind-
the
like-
pit.
I would want, like, everything... Or, like, a closed golf course.
No, Tyler's
Or
right.
something
It has
like
to be.
this.
It has to be a pickleball because then you could call it the Pickle and Punk Festival.
Yeah.
Let's go. We gotta take over the craziest sweeping in the nation and also post-punk.
Well, Tyler, if people want to pitch their band for the Pickle and Punk Festival, where can they find you?
Oh, you'll find me at
Pickle
Urban
and
Artifact drinking pickle beer, which will also be at this festival. Hey everyone, you can find my design illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, you can find me on socials as Rude Pets Club on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Wow.
Sean, if people want to send in their merch designs for our official festival t-shirt, where can they send those?
Oh, yeah. You can find Tyler and I on Instagram at Teleshawn.
And if you want to open a slot at the Pickle and Punk Festival, we're booking now. You can find me on the socials at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeat podcast playlist. We'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.